While a call to adventure sounds enticing, we rarely recognize it as such. It feels a lot more like a pain in the ankle, a problem, or a detour. If we can start to recognize obstacles as opportunities to practice our philosophy, our entire lives will change. When we recognize problems as our calls to adventure, we increase our confidence and ability to help others. What annoying part of your life right now might actually be your call to adventure? You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 170, Your Call to Adventure, originally published June 29th, 2022. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode. You are so awesome for being here. I hope you've had a good summertime week. Have you thought about what you've eaten this past week in terms of nutritive mismatch? Did what nutrients you fed your body match with what your brain took as a highly precise reading on the way in? It's really common and easy to have those two things be uncoupled, just like our wanting and liking can be uncoupled and lead to irrational loss chasing. So fascinating. Today is episode 52, which means that it's been exactly 1 year since I started recording these podcasts. That's so crazy to me. I'm proud of myself that I've never missed a Wednesday. I enjoy doing things that I told myself that I would do. Executing on my plan. But I can't believe that it's been that long. So for today's anniversary episode, we're going to start with a very special guest and we'll see how it goes. This is one of the 4 people I love more than any human on the earth, and pretty easy to book as a guest because I pretty much told him he had to come on. And I didn't prepare any questions. I just told him out of the blue to sit down and explain something. And he was a better interviewee than I was interviewer. I thought I'd ask him because I've never read or watched Lord of the Rings. Well, once I tried to watch it and I was asleep within 10 minutes or less. No joke. And since it's such a long movie, that was an extremely small percentage of the movie that I was actually conscious for. Everything I know about Lord of the Rings, I learned from The Big Bang Theory. This is also true of Dungeons & Dragons, Klingon, the Hadron Collider, and string theory. So, here we go. Okay, welcome to the podcast.
Okay.
You want to say what your name is?
I'm Kipling.
And how old are you?
12.
Okay. So, I've never read Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. And I tried to watch Lord of the Rings once and I fell asleep like within 10 minutes. So I have no idea what the story is. So can you tell us the background? Because I had asked you and I said, well, he comes to Frodo.
Bilbo.
And you said, yeah, no, it's Bilbo. So I don't know anything, right? So what happens at the very beginning? That's in The Hobbit, right? Not Lord of the Rings. Okay.
So basically in the beginning of The Hobbit, Gandalf comes to Bilbo's house and calls him to adventure, and Bilbo doesn't want to go because hobbits are like kind of like people. They don't like adventure. They just like staying at their house and being the same thing every single day. So then Gandalf comes along, calls him to adventure, and he doesn't want to go, but then eventually he does end up going.
Okay. And why did Gandalf choose Bilbo?
Gandalf chose Bilbo because Bilbo was a hobbit. They have a bunch of like different characteristics about them that make them good for it, but they don't. So basically hobbits don't like doing what they're good at.
Oh, okay.
So they're like really quiet and nimble, and kind of fast, but they don't like being quiet and stuff.
So he had all the characteristics inside of him, but he didn't want to have to use them?
Yes, pretty much.
Interesting. Okay. And how did Gandalf know that he would be good for it?
Because Gandalf and Bilbo were friends already.
Oh.
They already knew each other.
Okay. And what was the adventure, like a short snippet of the adventure he got called to do?
Basically, there's a dragon named Smog, and he has this big gold hoard, and there are a bunch of dwarves, and basically they're all going to get the gold, because the gold was stolen from said dwarves' city by Smog, so they're all going to get it back.
Okay. And what made Bilbo decide to go after all?
I think it was just a lot of peer pressure.
From Gandalf?
And all the dwarves. They were all at his house. There were like 13 people at his house there. They were all trying to convince him to go.
And
he was promised 10% of everything. Well, he was promised a fair share of it.
And isn't a hobbit's house really small?
No, not really. It's a hole in a hill.
But it's not necessarily short.
I mean, it's probably bigger than a normal house.
Oh, okay.
But Bilbo had basically a mansion-sized hobbit hole.
Oh.
So his house was bigger than most.
Okay. So they fit in there. And they peer pressured him into it. Was there anything else that helped him decide, do you think?
Yeah, of course he got promised his fair share of all the gold.
Okay.
And I think he just wanted to... He had some neighbors that weren't very nice. So he might have wanted to get away from them.
Okay. Do you think he had any kind of desire secretly to go?
Yeah, probably.
Like deep down he kind of wanted to?
Yeah.
But it would be easier to just stay home, right? Is that why he kind of wanted to stay home?
Yeah, the hobbits always want to do the easier thing.
Okay. So it was in his nature to be good at it, but it was also the common thing to do what's easiest.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was choosing between what he's good at and what's the easiest or most, what everybody else would do.
Yeah.
Because probably nobody else would have been willing to go, right?
Not then.
Yeah. Okay. And then, since I got his name wrong, who's Frodo?
He's from Lord of the Rings. He's Bilbo's adopted son.
Bilbo's adopted son. Okay. Everything I know about Lord of the Rings I learned from The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
So I know there's a guy that goes and has the ring and says, "My precious."
Oh yeah, Gollum.
But that's all I know. Okay. So he goes on his adventure. He eventually decides to do it. Does he have a guide to help him?
Yeah, Gandalf is pretty much their guide.
Okay. And he's like the wiser...
Gandalf is like the big wise wizard that knows a lot of things.
Okay. Did Bilbo come back at the end the same kind of person he was when he reluctantly decided to go?
No.
What changed about him, do you know?
I think he liked people more. Earlier he was more of an introvert. And he was nicer to people. He decided to go on another adventure, I think. So I think he decided to like them now.
Oh. So he chose to go on one adventure, got through it, and then decided that he would do like maybe a bigger adventure?
I don't know if it was bigger, but he decided he liked them.
Okay. He had to go through a lot of hardships, and did any of that change what kind of person he was?
It probably made him more confident in what he can do.
Okay. Do you think the people can hear Sky the bird?
I don't know. I can't hear her.
Oh, she's squawking in there. Okay. I think that's all of my questions. Thank you for being on. We're going to have you on again in a few weeks.
Okay.
But really, we're going to record it like right after this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for helping and for telling us about adventure.
Okay.
I've mentioned the idea of the hero's journey in the past. If you haven't yet, I'd recommend that you watch the documentary Finding Joe about author Joseph Campbell's teachings on the hero's journey. You can find it for free on YouTube. In his book, Pathways to Bliss, Joseph Campbell says, "The hero's journey is one of the universal patterns through which that radiance shows brightly. What I think is that a good life is one hero's journey after another. Over and over again, you are called to the realm of adventure. You are called to new horizons. Each time, there is the same problem. Do I dare? And then if you do dare, the dangers are there, and the helps also, and the fulfillment or the fiasco. There's always the possibility of a fiasco, but there's also the possibility of bliss." End quote. Joseph Campbell was the one who originally coined the term follow your bliss. And it wasn't meant to be an airy-fairy, eat cotton candy and buy new shoes all day, every day kind of thing, but a mustering of courage to set out on the path of danger that has the possibility of leading to fiasco. Following your bliss is hard and scary work, and rewarding in a way that nothing else is. The basics of the hero's journey are the call to adventure, the reluctance to answer the call, the mustering of courage to answer the call, or not, crossing the threshold into the unknown if the call is answered, guidance from a mentor, fighting dragons, winning or losing, and then returning to the world with greater gifts to offer. Our whole life is a form of a hero's journey. We have opportunities for growth that feel scary, dragons to fight, and mentors to help us along the way. Every choice is a chance to step forward into growth or step back into safety. This hero's journey analogy works on the macro level for our lives. But according to the world's foremost expert on creativity, Steven Pressfield, it is even more important on a micro level. He said the hero's journey sequence plays out in our lives all day, every day. We have thousands of hero's journey opportunities every single day. Thousands? Really? I don't think my life is that exciting. What about you? According to Pressfield, it is. He says that every time we do anything in our lives, our inner self, our hero in the making, our daimon, whatever you want to call her, is whispering in our ear the kernel of what could be a great idea. That's one of our many calls to adventure. Do we choose to answer the call? Do we follow up on the great idea or step back into safety? Do we leave our doubts behind and step forward to pursue the possibility of awesomeness or squelch the very thought of adventure the minute it arises? Kids are awesome at following that creative thread. Why is that? Probably because they're not worried about whether they'll make money, appear to, quote, have it together, or publicly succeed. They're not even worried about what's possible or logical or reasonable. Our adult, sensible self is important, and we're glad to have her, but I think we dismiss the very idea of adventuring, even at a micro level, a little too often. The more regularly and quickly we dismiss those kernels of awesomeness, the fewer adventurous calls we'll hear. The more we'll settle into safe mediocrity and a general sense of low-grade dissatisfaction. What creative ideas have you whispered in your own ear today? Have potentially adventurous thoughts flitted through your mind today? Did you even notice them? What did you do about them? If you choose to act, even in a small way, you're on a mini hero's journey. If you answer the question, do I dare, with a yes, you'll come back a few minutes from now as a little bit of a different person than you were before you chose to answer the call. You'll have a little more to offer the world, and there's always the chance of a fiasco. How can you notice more of these mini calls to adventure throughout your day? Obviously, you don't have time to be derailed by a bunch of weird tangents, but of the thousands of calls, how many do you even notice? How would your life be different if you said, yes, I dare, to take the time to send an encouraging text to your sister, hide a cute little kid Valentine for your spouse to find, Book a DEXA body scan. Write a creative story just for the fun of it. Learn about getting started lifting barbells instead of just dumbbells. Take a short walk instead of mindlessly scrolling. Or to sit in silence for 5 whole minutes. These little whisperings, especially creative ones, or the little nudges towards who we want to be more of, are important. I think being open to hearing them is awesome, and saying yes to some of them is even better. It's a mini hero's journey, and you'll come back from it a little more heroic than if you had ignored it. But I think there's also frequent calls to adventure throughout our day and our life that are not so nice as just a kernel of potential magnificence. If you think about what you're trying to do with your life on a big begin with the end in mind deathbed or dream obituary level, that sounds funny. I've never really thought of it like that. You can have a dream house and a dream car and a dream vacation and a dream obituary. Which one is most important to you? Better get your glamour shot taken so you're ready for your dream obituary. Do you remember when they would have glamour shot studios like at the mall? That was hilarious. Anyway, we talked about the ultimate game we were playing back in episode 44. We talked about ultimately wanting to express the best version of ourselves as often as possible so that we have the ability to give our unique talents and skills in service to the world, and how our physical health serves as one vehicle to help us most effectively reach that place. In that episode 44, I mentioned one of my favorite quotes from the ancient Stoic Seneca. He said, quote, "How much better to pursue a straight course and eventually reach that destination where the things that are pleasant and the things that are honorable finally become for you the same." End quote. I love that. Being on a journey to make a difference in the world and pursuing a course where eventually the things we most love to do are the ones that are best for us and for everyone who depends on us. It's sometimes hard for me to keep the ancient Stoics straight, so if you're with me, Seneca lived from 4 BC to 65 AD. He was a Roman statesman at the time of Christ and was a tutor to the Emperor Nero. His brother is named Gallio and was mentioned in the Bible. Kind of cool. So here we are with our philosophy that is somewhere along the lines of being our best self more and more often by acting in integrity with what we believe to be most important. We'll call those our virtues. Most people believe that we want to manipulate our circumstances to make it easy to express our virtues, to make sure nothing gets in the way of our bliss. That difficulties and obstacles sidetrack us from acting out our philosophy, so we need to minimize and run away from those things that obviously undermine our success. The best way to live our philosophy is to travel a clear and blissful path. Well, not according to our old buddy Seneca. This is a bit of a long quote, but I hope you like it. It says, "The powers we have can never inspire in us a genuine inner self-confidence until we have confronted many difficulties along the way, and even now and then have had to struggle fiercely with them. This is the only way our true spirit ever can be really tested, the inner spirit we all have that will never consent to be ruled by outer forces. The nature of such a spirit can be seen in the fact that no prize fighter can go into a contest with high spirits if he has never been beaten black and blue. The only man who can enter into the ring with confidence is one who has seen his own blood, has felt his teeth rattle by an opponent's fist, has been tripped up, and has experienced the full force of an adversary's charge, who has been knocked down in body but not in spirit. One who, as often as he falls, gets up again with greater determination than ever. For disaster is virtue's opportunity." End quote. What do you think? Do you want an opportunity to express your virtues? Sounds like a call to adventure to me. And a lot of the time, according to Seneca, that call, that opportunity comes in the form of disaster. We talked about it before that the obstacle is the way. The obstacle is the opportunity to express our virtue. The obstacle is the call to adventure. If we can practice our philosophy and demonstrate what matters to us in the face of disaster, Then our inner spirit can finally soar. We can finally have confidence in ourselves and get up again with greater determination than ever. Disaster is virtue's opportunity. And the disaster doesn't have to be a magnitude 9.5 earthquake, a tornado, wildfire, or worldwide pandemic. Remember that we have thousands of calls to adventure every day. It can be dropping a jar of pickles all over the floor, getting stuck in traffic, not having one ingredient you need for your recipe, or having to deal with the consequence of a poor decision made by one of your kids. Do you have to behave perfectly in every situation? No, of course not. But if you can see some of those, quote, problems as opportunities, calls to adventure, how would your response change? How would your life change? Kids won't stop arguing? Car won't start? Sister-in-law said something rude to you? Blood sugar is above optimal? Number on the scale is higher than you'd prefer? There's your call to adventure. It's natural to want to ignore it like Bilbo. We're like hobbits, right? We collectively want to stay home and stay safe. But also like hobbits, we have exactly what it takes inside of us to succeed in our quest. We can find experienced guides to help us, and we'll come back changed, stronger, more confident, and more prepared to help other people on their journeys. And we don't have to become gladiator level amazing from our first call to adventure, aka disaster or irritant. We can be mollusk-like and use our inner nacre to wrap our irritant in one tiny layer of something a little bit smoother and shinier. Then when we're ready, we can do it again later. Do you know what nacre is? That's what oysters secrete to wrap their irritants with. And after thousands and thousands of nacre layers, their irritant and their response to it has made them rich. Not that mollusks care about money, but every irritating and painful situation is a potential new pearl. What's your nacre? Can you wrap your next irritant in it? One tiny layer to get started. Gratitude, curiosity, empathy, big picture perspective. There's your call to adventure. Can you feel it? The next opportunity to practice your philosophy might feel pretty unpleasant when it arrives, but if you can view it as a call to adventure, you'll change yourself, increase your ability to help others, and grow your own crown jewels. Next week, we're going to talk about the real deal with cholesterol. Until then, listen up for your call to adventure and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.